Christine, and today we're talking about books and travel and books. A discussion inspired by Alexandra Bracken's Passenger, our BOOKSPLOSION January book of the month. Big thank you to Disney Hyperion for sponsoring this video. So before we start talking about books and travel and books, I love traveling, I love books. Passenger is a treasure hunt through time, but not only are we going through time, we're also hopping around the globe. So when you jump through a passage in Passenger, a time passage, you could be in New York City and you can jump through and end up in France in 1915. Our main character starts in New York City, but she ends up all over the world searching for this treasure that she needs to find. The time travel rules created in Passenger are so unique and different and interesting. I just posted my book talk and I went on and on forever. I love this book. I can't wait to see more. I'm gonna link my book talk in the description and I'll link it right here, so if you want to watch it you can go watch that. Highly recommend picking this baby up. And if you read it before January 30th, you can join myself, Kat, and Jesse for the BOOKSPLOSION live show. I'll leave more information about that in the doobly-doo as well. Moving on to our Passenger. So let's get into this. Travel and books, books and travel. Now, I don't know about you, but when I read a book that takes place in a foreign country, it makes me want to go visit that country. I already want to travel places, and when I get these beautiful descriptions of the landscapes and the architecture and all that stuff, it just increases the need, the craving tenfold. I don't have all my books on my bookshelf yet. I'm pulling up the little symbol to represent my Dan Brown books, because Dan Brown books, before any other books did, made me want to travel around the world. Before I became the book slayer I am today, I read Dan Brown and Harry Potter on a continuous loop. There was the Da Vinci Code, a lot of which takes place in France. After I read that book, I needed to visit the Louvre. I already wanted to go to the Louvre because I took French when I was in middle school. Don't ask me how to say anything in French because I'm terrible. But I took one class and my teacher would rave about France and Paris and the Louvre. I wanted to go, but then I read that book and I needed to. And it didn't end there. Then I read Angels and Demons, which takes place in Rome and at the Vatican. I needed to go all the places that Robert Langdon stopped at. If you've never read a Dan Brown book, they're basically treasure hunts too. Robert Langdon is this symbology expert. He's a professor at Harvard, and his expertise is always needed in these unsolvable cases. There'll be like a serial killer who's living all these symbolic things. They use art, and Robert Langdon ends up having to be the one that goes on this wild goose chase hunt to find the killer, or to find whatever the killer stole. And they're awesome. So when I went abroad and I fulfilled these Dan Brown inspired travel dreams, it was amazing. I went to Paris, I went to the Louvre, I went to Rome, I did the Vatican, and it just meant so much more to me because I had read about these places and read about their history. Another thing that I learned from Dan Brown, so much history about random architecture, because Robert Langdon is a professor and he knows everything about everything. So most recently he's come out with this book Inferno, and in Inferno we end up in Istanbul and it sounds so beautiful. That has been added to my bucket list of travel places that I must go. It's so crazy how much more a random bridge or a random building means to you if you've read about it in one of the books that you love. You read this story and in your head you know it's not real, but you want to believe it's real, and when you go to those places that those characters were, it feels real. It's like you're now physically connected to something from this fictional world. It feels more plausible that this actually happened. I went back to London last summer. I couldn't explain how much I wanted to go visit Blackfriars Bridge. If you've read the Infernal Devices series, you know a lot of shit goes down on Blackfriars Bridge. And it's just a bridge. It's just a bridge in London. But when I went there, I felt so emotional. It felt like such an important thing that I was there. I felt like I was gonna tear up. It's just such a testament to the power of good storytelling. If you have no desire to travel, which some people don't, and you read a book in this land that you've never visited, and you love that book, you want to go to that place. So Harry Potter. J.K. Rowling wrote this book, the first 3 books, in Edinburgh, in this elephant cafe. Before I go any further, I know I'm saying Edinburgh wrong. I've gotten so many comments over the years. Anytime I say Edinburgh, ew, American. Oh my god, she's so American. She can't even say Edinburgh. Edinburgh. I'm sorry. Okay, let's just get past it. I'm sorry I can't do it right, okay? One of the reasons I was so excited to visit Edinburgh, to go to Scotland, is because that is where Joe wrote Harry Potter. When we were there, we went to the cemeteries around that area, and there's a Tom Riddle in that cemetery. There's a McGonagall in that cemetery. It's mind-boggling to imagine Joe walking around this area, pulling tidbits from it to put into her book. Just being in Scotland, being in Edinburgh, you can picture Hogwarts there. You can see the architecture that we see in the movie movies and that we read about in the books, and it was just the best. It meant so much more to me to be there because I knew that this is where a lot of the inspiration came for my favorite book series of all time. And I went to the Elephant Cafe where she sat and wrote these books, and I don't know if any of you have seen my really old vlog about this, but I go into more detail and there's footage if you want to go look at it. Beware, it's in my very early vlogging days and I'm a hyperactive psychopath. When you go inside, it's just like a cafe. But then you go to the bathroom and it's like Harry Potter threw up in there. It's beautiful. Somewhere in the UK that I haven't gotten to go yet, that I've now read about, is Wales, where Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children takes place. I've wanted to go there. I want to explore the UK more. No, I only got to go to that one city in Scotland, and I never went to Wales. If you're American and you're not familiar with Wales at all, because I wasn't familiar with Wales at all until I went to the UK. We literally learned nothing about the UK. We go there and we sound like idiots because we don't know what the difference between the UK and Britain and England. Like, a lot of Americans will think that the whole United Kingdom is England, and it's not. But we don't know any better because they never freaking teach us in school. They're just like, yeah, there's the United Kingdom. And we assume it's England because we hear about England all the goddamn time. But if you talk to an American and they sound like an idiot, don't blame them. Our school system is lacking in that department. Anyway, the people who live in Wales, a lot of them speak Welsh. The language to us, to me at least, just looks insane, and it's just so much fun to hear someone speaking in that language. There's so many words with so few vowels. I just really want to visit that area and explore their culture a little bit. Next year I have Blood Promise. This is the 4th book in the Vampire Academy series, and in this book Rose has to go to Russia. The city that Rose visits just sounds so beautiful. It sounds like Anastasia, and I never ever thought about visiting Russia before. This book has really made me want to visit. Next year, I have Twilight. Laugh all you want, but I want to go to Forks. Up there in the rainy northern area of the West Coast is beautiful. Those forests are gorgeous. I want to see Portland. I want to see Seattle. I want to see Forks. I want to film in those forests. And this book that made such a big impact on my life took place there. I want to go to that. Next year, I have Blood Promise. In this book, the Percy gang goes to Greece. I've wanted to go to Greece way before this. Like, when I first started learning about Greek mythology, I wanted to go to Greece. But reading about these kids going to Greece and seeing all the ruins and the temples just reignited that fire in me. I've already mentioned Scotland because of Harry Potter, but I didn't talk about how much that need to go back has intensified since getting involved with Outlander. And as you know, or maybe don't know, I haven't actually read Outlander, but I've been to panels, I've watched the series. I want to go. I want to go to there. The places where Outlander is filmed. And that place she disappears. Oh my god, I can't remember the name of it right now. Castle, Yalababada. I want to see that castle too. There's just a lot of stuff I want to see in Scotland. Most recently, I've had an interesting experience reading Magnus Chase. Magnus Chase takes place in Boston, which is actually where I went to school, so I lived in that city for 4 years, and it was so interesting hearing it as the backdrop for a Rick Riordan book that I was reading. I recognized all the places he talked about. It just made me want to go back to that. Oh, and even Divergent. I had never been to Chicago, and I read Divergent, and then all of a sudden going to Chicago meant so much to me. Kat and I went for a Divergent premiere in 2014, and it just felt so cool to be there. Just seeing the Ferris wheel, just being in the places where Tris talked about after becoming so emotionally invested in this story was such a great feeling. Oh my god, when I got off at the airport, when I got off the plane and I was walking through the O'Hare airport, I was so excited. Like, when you get off a plane, usually you're like dead and you feel disgusting, but I was like, oh, this is where Tris lived! This is where Legion took place! Power storytelling, you guys. I'm so excited to travel more in the future. Going to different countries and different places it's such a great experience. And I know if you haven't done it yet, you might feel otherwise. You might feel apathetic to it. You might feel comfortable in your own bubble and it's fine, I can just read about these places. But you don't know until you go. And once you go, all of a sudden you want to go more places. You learn so many things that you didn't realize that you didn't know. I can't stress enough how much just having studied abroad has changed me as a human. It's the best in so many ways. Study abroad. Do not miss your chance to study abroad. Now that I'm done with my lecture, thank you again to Passenger for inspiring this discussion. I'd love to hear your experiences with books and traveling and where right now you want to go the most. What book has sparked an inferno of craving inside you to travel? I'm Christine. Thank you so much for watching. I make videos every Tuesday. I'm on Instagram and Twitter at xteenmay if you don't follow that yet. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!